What is up, my bodyweight warriors, and welcome back to another video, another vlog. Today I want to talk to you about injuries, and specifically training injuries. This was inspired from a comment from Tamara. Pause it, have a read, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Kind of not only how to fix an injury, but also the mindset behind it and how you can kind of deal with it and make sure you go ahead, go on and become better and grow from that injury and not let it drag you down. Also, if you're wondering what the noise is in the background, it's actually destroying a unicorn. Before we talk about that, let's grab some coffee. Perfect. That is exactly what is needed, and I don't know why I always do these random sort of montages of coffee stuff. I just find it fun to make artistic stuff out of film, and it's kind of hard to do with training, so enjoy the B-rolls of coffee. Right, onto the injury front. Today's going to be like a conversational video. It's not going to be super exciting, it's just maybe interesting for those of you who are interested in injury. I'm really interested to hear your opinion. Everyone has a different story of injuries. Leave a comment down below, join the conversation, let me know your thoughts on injuries, how you got it, how you came over it, what your thought process was. Join the conversation. So this video isn't exactly on fixing injuries, because there's more of a nuance to fix an injury, and that needs to be done at the individual level. I think you need some coaching, I think you need some advice. We'll get to that a bit later. It's actually gonna be tackling the kind of psychological aspect of injury. When you're deep into training, when you're going at a goal, having an injury is a bit of a kick in the teeth, because it kind of stops you in your tracks and it forces you to take a break and take a step back from what your dream, what your focus is. It can be frustrating. I completely understand that. I've had my fair share of injuries in the past couple of years. I had golfer's elbow, medial epicondylitis on both arms, as well as some nerve damage to the extent of which I couldn't really train upper body for about 6 months. After that, I was all right for about 3 months, and then I tore my supraspinatus, which was more of an accident than anything. Following that, I developed bicep tendonitis where my shoulder wasn't strong enough, and I developed bicep tendonitis on my other shoulder where I wasn't strong enough. So I've had my fair share of injuries these past 2 years, and it's been very inconsistent, but the last 6 months, I've been back on track. And I am now stronger than I was before all of those injuries. So I 100% believe that for most people with most sports-related injuries, you can come back from them and get back to a point of which you were before, if not better. And that's kind of point number one. Understand it will get better. It sucks now, it sucks currently, but it's not forever, it's only temporary. And that's a really important thing to understand, but kind of a hard thing to swallow at the time. Which kind of brings me on to point number two, which is acceptance. That's kind of the first thing to do when it comes to getting over an injury. You need to accept that the injury has happened and understand the story that it's trying to tell you. So when you get an injury, and especially overuse injuries, it's giving you a sign that something in your body isn't quite right, something in your practice isn't quite right, and something needs to be addressed. We're not having enough time for recovery, rest, and recuperation. There's too much yang energy, that breakdown, that catabolism, and not enough yin, that building up, and that anabolism. And this applies to a multitude of things in life. I personally like to think of this as I have my yang phases and my yin phases. My yang is when I'm going out there, I'm going hard at training, I'm making strides forward, but then that equally needs to be coupled with enough yin, enough time spent relaxing, resting, building yourself back up, eating enough calories, getting enough sleep, all of those important factors that then let us able to do the yang, the exercise aspect, and go at it. Point number three is that it does not mean your dream is dead. Just because you're injured does not mean you cannot in some way work towards your goals. You know, say you've hurt your wrist, you don't want to try and work around it and continue to do handstands because it's only going to make the injury a little bit slower. You need to have your rehab, but then there's also things that are going to help towards your ultimate dream, goal, whatever it is. So for example, with handstand, shoulder flexibility and lower limb flexibility is incredibly important. So whilst you're not training, you can spend some time working on your overhead mobility. You can work on middle splits, on front splits, on hamstrings, all of that stuff that when you come back to your sport, to your goal, you'll actually be in a better position to go and attack it, because you've done those underlying things that need to be done, which maybe you weren't spending as much time doing because you were focused on doing the handstands. Just an example. There's always something you can do, and if there isn't something that you can do training wise, maybe that means you need to spend more time relaxing, and that is the doing that's going to enable you to get better at your goal. Point number four is don't guess, assess. I don't know why I felt like that needed to rhyme, but it kind of worked. And this is basically, you know, don't guess what injury you have, don't guess what's wrong with you, don't try and muddle through it. go find a professional, go pay somebody to sort your shit out, basically. Seem to be saying this a lot recently. People are saying, I've got this wrong with me, I've got this issue, and I'm like, okay, cool. Number one, are you sure you have that issue? How do you know? Have you watched some videos on YouTube and kind of guessed that's your issue? If you don't have a background in anatomy, biomechanics, rehab, it's hard to teach yourself that, let alone assess yourself. You're better off going to a professional, somebody who does this for a job, somebody who's good at it, paying them money and letting them deal with that. Strangely enough, the things you find for free on YouTube, there's good information out there for sure, but it's not the best way to fix your problems. If you really want to solve it, if you want to shortcut things, if you want to make your life a lot easier, pay somebody to help you. Point number 5 is be realistic with timeframes and be focused during that time window. So if you think you're going to be fixed in 2, 3, 4 weeks, then you're probably going to be disappointed. You're better off setting your expectations longer and then succeeding them. So for example, maybe set your time window for 6 months. This way, you don't spend 4 weeks doing rehab and then 5 months spending time saying, why am I not recovered yet? And getting more and more frustrated over this injury. If you set aside that 6 months to be focused and making rehabilitation your number one priority, and that is your training focus, that is your goal, then you're going to be much less likely to be disappointed. You're probably going to get better results and you're going to feel generally more positive about the injury. As I said, 6 months out of whatever your ultimate goal is doesn't mean you can't work towards it during that 6 months, but I think the rehab, getting rid of the injury, should be goal number 1 first and foremost. The 6th and final point that I want to go over is the how do you do the rehab bit. Now, this is where seeing a professional comes in because they will give you the rehab to do. It doesn't necessarily need to be expensive. Sometimes you can do it in 1 or 2 sessions just to assess and give you a plan and check up on things. It is definitely worth your time, but here is kind of my personal take on rehab and what's been very successful for me and a lot of the clients that I've worked with when they've come to me with injuries. My personal favorite phrase is actually from a guy called Adam Meekins, who is a physio here in the UK. He's called The Sports Video on Instagram. I'll link him down below. He's actually going to be on the podcast very soon, so stay tuned for that one if you want some tips on how to keep your shoulders healthy. But he has a saying which is basically, you can't go wrong with getting strong. And that's pretty much been my reflection of rehab process. When you do assessments with rehab, you're assessing which movements cause pain and then kind of guessing as to which muscles may be contributing. But the main thing you're actually assessing is what movement patterns cause pain. And then from there, you can then work on getting stronger again in those movement patterns. This is a very simplified version of rehabbing. The overarching principle is pretty straightforward. Can't go wrong with getting strong. Working on strengthening the areas which have been weakened and are weak and are causing you issues, and then basically find a point in which you can start from and then build your way back up. Eventually, over that period of time, things will get better. But you need to make sure you're addressing those weak points and understanding the underlying cause for why an injury's happened. Just because you have bicep tendonitis, for example, doesn't mean that it's an issue with your bicep. In fact, more than likely it's going to be an issue somewhere up or downstream of that issue. This is why you go to a professional, because things aren't always as simple as they seem. And although YouTube is great, it's not going to consider you on the individual level and what is causing your particular case of whatever issue you're having. So that's basically it. That's kind of my personal take on injuries and my step process that I would walk somebody through if I was helping them, or just on myself personally. Number 1, understand that it will get better. Have a generally positive outlook on the injury. It's an opportunity to learn. It's a story your body is telling you. Learn from it, understand it, and then put it into practice so you can come back stronger. Number 2 is accepting the injury where you're at and not trying to train through it or force through it or somehow work around it. Accept you have the injury and just deal with it. Make it your number 1 priority. Number 3 is understand that just because you have an injury does not mean you cannot work toward your goals in some way. You can always make steps forward, whether you're working on things that are going to help you in the future with your goals and your current focus. It's just going to be a little bit of a detour from the intended plan. Number 4 is don't guess, assess, get some professional help. Get somebody to have a look at you, understand your injury, and help you plan the best course to go and fix it productively. Number 5 is make sure you set a realistic time frame for the injury to heal. It's not going to heal overnight. You're just going to be frustrated if you think that. Give yourself 4, 5, 6 months to let that injury heal and make it your number 1 priority during that time. And the 6th and final recommendation is you can't go wrong with getting strong. You just need to do it in a way that's not going to harm you anymore and it's going to help build you back up to that point and then beyond into the future, so you can hit those goals, get strong, all of that good stuff. But that is it for this week, guys. As I said at the beginning of this video, I'd love to hear your experience with injury. How do you go about rehabbing it? How do you tackle it mentally? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. If not, you can always just hit that thumbs up button and support the channel. Right next to it is that subscribe button as well, so you can join the Bodyweight Warrior tribe, getting stronger together. But that's been it for this week, guys. I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a strong week, and